Hey, True Believers England team here, and we got a story for you this time around. This is pretty good. We're going to be doing a couple of patriotic things, and when it was brought up, what story should we talk about? Mr. Breen right here, Eric, how do you do, sir?
Good evening, kids.
You actually mentioned the Superman Lois, the vacation they take with John Kent in Superman 27 and 28, the Rebirth era, written by Peter J. Tomasi. I added him, see if he wanted to at least pop in the chat. If he, of course, if he wants to come on, hell yeah, we're going to be talking about this story. It's really good. When it came out a couple of years back, we were kind of in the mix of the whole going against SJW things. Nothing's changed. Nothing. I mean, it's still the same fights and battles, but recently we've noticed that, like yesterday, I did a review of the Captain America book, which Captain America hates the country. And we've just been getting this over and over and over again about how it seems like there's just this whole anti-sentiment towards the country because people just do not understand what this country is, what this country is about. The American dream is misunderstood. It's seen as something material, and it isn't. And it's good, by the way, to read a book like this. I read it, actually. I read the last two issues in about an hour, in the last hour. I was doing other things. I went, oh my gosh, you know, I should actually read, because I've read them before a couple times, but I thought maybe I should read up just to get an idea. And as I was reading, I realized we cannot do this the way we normally do our Throwback Thursdays. Usually we go from page to page. We talk a little bit about what happens. There's no way this book could be done well. There's no way we could do this good service without reading some of the passages. It's just got to be done that way. So before we go, let me say hello to Maranya, of course, saying Superman should always be for truth, justice, and the American way. That prompted me to change the thumbnail because I had American Pride across it. It seems that people have forgotten about American Pride because not only Cleveland in the chat, but RDV backstage made the same thing about it's gay month again or something like that.
No, I said I tagged DC Pride because you got Pride up there. So
okay, I see.
So they had their Pride, now it's our Pride. DC.
Being straight, this is American Pride Month.
Right.
It's for people who do love this country. This country has always been great. I'll say that all the time, and because she said that, I changed the thumbnail to truth, justice. And let's get that part that everybody ignores in big freaking bold letters, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. All righty. And by the way, hello to Cleveland. Hello to LK. To Hilliam's in the house saying, you know what? This is the Superman with Jonathan Kent, and that makes it Super Sons approved. Hello to Tevia. How are you guys doing today? And you know what? Let's get this thing going here. I'll have to save it out. And hello to Dominic. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, A14. How about yourself?
All doing all right. And let's hope this goes well, of course. Because you know what? This book is really good. Eric, you've read this before, right? Has anybody not read this before here?
I actually just read it for the first time.
For the first time? That was your first reading? Oh, wow.
I've never really been into Superman. I knew it existed. I just never was into Superman that much. So I've been working my way up from the Byrne saga going through.
Well, when this came out, I was really pushing Tomasi's run. Tomasi understands Superman, and he wrote a really, really good version of Superman here. So part of the reason is he actually gives a good sense of family. You with the interactions between John and Lois and Clark here, they're parents. They're not super parents. Under Bendis, they became super parents, and that was horrible. Son, why don't you travel across the universe? Because no. They're parents, and that's the way Superman and Lois should always act. not, oh, well, willy-nilly go on this Universal trip without us. That was a wrong thing to do. Hello to Indie Comic Jones. How's it going? So we've got two different covers. This is cover A right here, and I liked it, but I got to tell you, the cover B was my favorite, which is this right here. This is the one that I got because, I mean, that says everything. That says everything. So, like I said, as we're going through, we're going to go through, and we're actually going to be reading some passages because it starts off with Superman just being Superman. He's flying around. You see Lois and John get tired, and apparently Clark falls asleep, and as he's waking up, realizes he's crashing to Earth on the farm. I don't think I've ever seen Superman fall asleep flying. Is this a first there, Eric?
As far as I know.
Yeah. I didn't know that was possible. But there you go. So he comes in a little bit embarrassed, sees everybody kind of sleeping, puts everyone to bed. And when they wake up, Jonathan is excited because Lois Lane has rented them an RV, a good old-fashioned recreational vehicle. And we get the title here, which is Declaration. And I got to tell you, I like the names of both of these issues. Issue number 27 being Declaration. We see that it's written by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason with a story by Scott Godlewski. So these are three different. Is that what?
I think the third guy was the artist.
Okay, so I'm reading them wrong. So it's Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason came up with the story. Peter J. probably came up with dialogue or anything like that. So there you go. Bird is free, by the way. Unfortunately, Gail's asleep, so I may have to get up and move it in just a little bit. So anyway, we see him getting all set up, and Lois is talking about the vacation they want to take. They want to spend this independent holiday or Independence Day traveling across the country, and they get to pick, each of them get to pick a certain amount of places they want to go. And one thing I got to agree with is Superman's, he goes, oh, I can bring my Xbox. It's going to be so cool. He's like, get the TV out of here. Get it out. You know, I'm like that too. I like, you know, when kids, when we go to Disney, when we go somewhere, put your freaking phones down for a second. You know, you gotta be a good family vacation, right? And
that panel at the bottom is so cool.
What with him?
Yeah,
carrying the TV in. Yeah. Well, here's something. He is very excited about. One thing I think is kind of cool is this is a kid who can fly, and yet he still thinks it's neat to drive around in an RV.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat that way because I think kids are like that. So he goes, okay, well, at least I get to make mac and cheese while I drive. And here, I think this is actually kind of important. I'm gonna switch up what we're doing here, and let me get the landscape fix. Because she says, "Okay, from the list I handed out, let's pick which spots we want to hit to celebrate our country's 241st birthday." And John says, "I've got my two." Lois says, "So do I." And she plugs them in the GPS. And John says, "Hey, Mom, what made you kind of want to take this kind of trip anyway?" And she says, sacrifice. I felt it'd be a good idea for us to celebrate Independence Day by honoring the men and women who served this country. And John says, before we go, can we make a tiny detour? And they do that by going, the detour is body surfing down Niagara Falls. That's kind of cool. That's just a superhero thing. So that's kind of neat. And they... the next day, they hit their first choice, and we hear Lois say, "We're at my first choice." Clark followed the signs for Rock Ridge Cemetery, and they get out, and here she is, Deborah Sampson. She disguised herself as a man and fought for a year and a half with the Continental Army against the British. Deborah was 5'9" and signed up with the Light Infantry Company of the 4th Massachusetts Regiment. She helped provide flank coverage along the reconnaissance duties. In one battle, she was wounded in both legs, and before a doctor could see her, she took off rather than someone discover she wasn't a man. She pulled out one of the musket balls with a penknife and a sewing needle. The other was too deep, so she left it there and went on to fight another day. Deborah was wounded again a year later, but this time the doctor found out her identity, and instead of being reprimanded, she was given an honorable discharge in 1783, but she kept on fighting, this time for her pay and pension, which the Army held back because she was a woman. And she petitioned Congress twice and finally won the $1,536 the country owed her. It goes on to say, how come we've never heard of Deborah Sampson in history class, Dad? To which Clark Kent replies, just a good question, John. You should ask your history teacher about it this fall. And Lois says, and I love this line, one of the best lines, and instead of making more movies glorifying mobsters, drug kingpins, and serial killers, they should be making ones about real people like her. I mean, come on. That right there sets up the entire book. That right there just tells you, come on, we're going to be honoring, we're going to be celebrating Americana. Real Americana. Okay, he pauses for anybody that wants to jump in. Alrighty.
Sometimes you get on these mystical roles, and it's best just to let you go.
I appreciate that. At least it shows Superman can get exhausted as to heal him. They went hard after Tomasi for this story, says Evil Black Cat. They really did.
They did.
I can see why, because this is what America's about. This next segment right here is what America's about.
Well, I think I told you that when this came out, CBR, in the same span of like 2 weeks, gave an issue of America 9 out of 10 and gave this 3.5 and just crushed it.
This is such a great story. So John, they're driving along and he sees a coexist sign and he says, "What's that bumper sticker mean?" Anybody else want to take this? Because I'm kind of overpowering. Do you guys want to read it, or shall I?
No, go ahead.
All right. Lois says, the C is the crescent moon, signifying Islam. The O is a peace sign paired with a male-female symbol. The E denotes science. The X, the Star of David. The I is a Wiccan symbol. The S is the Chinese yin-yang icon. And the T is made of the Christian cross. So spelled out, what do you think that means? And he says to coexist, even though everybody's beliefs is in something different. He says, exactly. Religious freedom is in the Bill of Rights, part of the First Amendment. Part of the First Amendment. I think it really should be repeated over and over. And John says that it's part of something Americans fought and died for, to which Lois said, so maybe we shouldn't be so hard on your teacher after all. And then we cut to what made you the next day. And there, I love the fact that they give the street right here. Like if you want to find this statue, you can find it right here if it's still up.
This is my favorite part right here, though.
You want to read it?
Well, no. After that, what happens in the next panel?
Okay. So it says, what made you pick this statue to represent World War I, John? And he says, it was the only one that made the war seem scary, Mom, like they're running out of hell. And you see the statue here, and in all honesty, it kind of does.
You see the graffiti up there, too, which he's going to mention.
Yeah. The TV show I saw about World War I with all the gas masks and trenches, it always looked lonely and blasted apart, kind of like the surface of the moon when we fought the Eradicator. What's all that paint and the letters doing on the statue? And Lois says that's graffiti. When it's done on public property, it's about someone with a spray can who's looking for attention and can't find it. And it looks like they stayed up there to do it by hanging on to the bayonet. It looks like it's almost breaking. And Clark says, people who do that, John, have no respect for the past.
I love
and
that.
The great men and women who came before us. And we see that Clark Kent speeds in. And
you should read that louder for the people who understand why statues are there.
For you mean that they have no respect for the past and
yes.
The great men and women who came before us? Yeah, well, the people who tear down these statues are not exactly bright, nor do I think they care about history, because they are doomed and are in fact repeating it. So we cut to Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and we see they're walking around taking the tour, and there's a guy behind him, a tour guide, and he says, the building was finished in 1753, and it became the main assembly place of the Second Continental Congress from 1975 to 1775 to 1783, and was the site of the Constitutional Convention in the summer of 1787. Yeah, the place where politicians did the easy work and none of the fighting, says John. And Clark corrects him. He says, nothing easy about debating and ratifying the Declaration of Independence in the United States Constitution. They weren't written by marble statues. These were real guys. They were flesh and blood, brave men who had a lot to lose. The politicians back then were putting their lives on the line for their beliefs. Like Jefferson said in the Declaration, they were pledging their sacred honor. And honor is a word that means a lot to a person who believes and lives by it. Once they signed those documents, they were committing treason, and the British hanged treasonous men. And that's one thing that a lot of these idiots that do tear down the statues don't get. When we're honoring them, yeah, we get it. They're flawed. They're people. They're flesh and blood. They've got good and bad sides, but we're not honoring them for anything other than what they did to create this country, because they did a lot to create this country. And I think this book is really, really good at pointing this kind of thing out. Let's see. Marania's bringing up the fact that John's doing a subliminal plug for the Flash comics here. And Clark is wearing a blue shirt and red shorts. It's a throwback to his classic Superman look. For those of you who didn't notice this, yeah. That's pretty cool. Another patriotic woman of the colonial period, says Joe Rogers, was Molly Pitcher during the Battle of Mammoth. She brought water to the artillery soldiers and then helped load one of the cannons. Tilliam says the Civil War, Brits versus people who wanted independence from Britain. And let's see. I got Facebook. What the hell are you talking about? Anyway. All right, let's go on. They start to look for somewhere to eat, and they meet a guy who's just sitting on the corner, and they say, hey, we just met someone. His name's Ryan. He's going to be joining us for dinner. And this is very topical, by the way, because at the time there was, I don't know if you remember, but there was a bit of backlash on American troops. There were actually people who were saying, you know, kind of like repeating the stuff that was repeated during the Vietnam War. And so he brings Superman, Clark and Lois bring the gentleman in. And apparently he's been on the corner for a while. And they say, we have the right not to serve him and upset our other dining customers. We see him on the street all the time around here. This isn't a shelter. And the guy says, hey, yeah, I'm out. Your boy doesn't need to hear this. And Clark says, yeah, he does. Actually, you're causing a scene. Ma'am, your walls filled with movie star and TV stars who've done nothing of real value for you. You have a problem tossing out a man who served his country and came back without his legs. Pardon me for saying, but this Marine's picture, along with other Philly vets, should be covering the walls. And she backs off and lets him eat. And they talk about how some people agree with what he just said. Some people disagree with it. Everybody has their right. But they mention empathy, being able to put yourself in other people's shoes, which, in all honesty, for all of the bluster that we do here on the other side of the political aisle, I actually don't think they do it. I think it's more they see everybody as pawns, as political pawns, rather than actually feel empathy, or at least the extremists do. I'm sorry. I'm on I feel like I'm on my podium here. So at this point, what do you think there, Eric?
I particularly like this part of the story because when I first read this, I thought, oh crap, here comes the lecturing, because we were getting so much of that in all of our other books. And then when I read this scene again, it's like, no, this is perfect. I said this is perfectly placed in this story.
Okay. How about you, Venk? Or he stepped away. All right. Let's see.
Sorry, I was muted.
No worries, no worries. So John says, hey, Mr. Duffy, where'd you get hurt? And John says it's not a polite question. He says, don't worry about it. It was at the Battle of Al Faw. It was with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit in one of the first battles of the 2003 Iraq War. My mission was to capture gas and petroleum platforms in the Al Faw Peninsula intact before Iraqi forces could sabotage them and blow them up. A T-55 tank shell hit close, no cover. Shrapnel took my legs, and he goes, okay, what about you folks? And they tell him where they work, and they finish up dinner, walk out, and we find out that the manager offered him a dishwasher job. So he says thanks, and they thank him for his service, and they move on to where they just have a nice family night vacation where Jonathan falls asleep roasting marshmallows. Never did that. Roasting marshmallows is always part of the fun, in all honesty. So they put him to bed, and Lois and Clark decide to enjoy a bottle of wine on the roof of their RV. And as they're doing that, the Justice League calls him, so he flies away. And that's the end of part 1. All righty, RDV, what do you think? What do you think? First issue of the of the Kent's family vacation.
This is fantastic. It said like the crap we read yesterday. This is someone who actually loves their country, and I thought it was Patrick Gleason did the art, but no, he co-wrote it though. So I'm even more shocked. So I'm kind of leering like as far as his next stuff. I want to see what he's going to be doing. But these two books here, these books are probably the 2 best Superman books I've ever read.
They definitely are, at least.
Only because it's
okay.
Patriotism.
No,
I mean, it's in fact, it's pretty much what everyone should want Superman to be: inspiring him, teaching his son, about the values of our country, the sacrifices people made to get these freedoms that people have. People have the right to disagree. It says it right in the books right there. It's like, you may not agree with everybody, but you have the rights. You have the freedom of religion. You can coexist with each other. You don't have to put other people down. I mean, it's basically what our country was founded on. It's patriotism, and God.
Eric?
I said this is as close to a flawless story as you can ask for. It's like everything hits at exactly the right moment, even on the last page when you realize he's Superman. Even though he's on a family vacation, he's still Superman. Mm-hmm. So he was lucky enough to get the day, but he's not going to get the night. But he promises to be back by morning. And I thought that was a perfect ending to part 1. Was, I said, his other vocation was calling, and I said,
right.
yeah.
Indie Comics Jones saying show him both sides. It's a lost art. He's also saying Superman needs the red trunks. Agreed.
Can I just say one thing though?
Go on ahead.
My only problem with this story is this guy draws Superman with the tiniest little legs and the biggest torso. When he's Clark, did you notice that?
No, I didn't. I'll have to check that out on the next chapter.
It looks like one of those cartoon gorillas, almost. Because like I said, when he's sitting down with the guy, with the vet, he's got this giant torso, and his legs are smaller than the vet's.
All righty. Let's see. Tillian saying Patrick Gleason worked on both the art and story alongside also worked on the story.
But it wasn't though.
It was a joint effort. LK says this is how you properly ground a character, and tearing down
Scott
This is how you
Godlewski.
properly ground a character, not in tearing down. That is all too prevalent. What are you saying, RDV?
I was saying it's not. Patrick Gleason didn't do it. He did a story. Scott Godlewski did the penciling and the ink
Okay.
for both stories.
Maranya saying it's ironic that Superman, an alien, embodies the American way more than the U.S. citizens, and from yesterday's book, Captain America. Unfortunately, I don't think that he would now either. Tell you the truth, not with Bendis writing. I'm sorry, but like I said, he's not. They're not the parents they used to be either. So it's kind of bad. The way the characters are falling. Let's see. That is pretty much up couldn't the JLA handle it? Dude's on vacation. I kind of like the new 52 and Future John's no red undies look, says MK. All right, let's head on over though to number 28, and hello again to Dominic.
Good
right.
evening, England team.
Oh, I guess didn't have it at the beginning. Also, I love this cover with Superman standing by the men and women in uniform and all of the uniforms of the past.
I mean, there's so much stuff on the inside of the book you could put as a cover. There's so much to choose from.
Yep. I actually thought about doing the guided, but I really just want to go page by page because there's so many pages here that are just so gorgeous.
Oh yeah. I think I saw the RV license plate. It mentioned Action Comics 1938 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a reference there in case people were reading this and look at the RV license plate. Check it out.
Oh, the RV license plate 1938. Okay.
Why is Moon Girl on the cover?
Funny. Okay, so we see everybody. We see Lois and John sleeping, and yes, I like the drool. By the way, good touch there. And they realize they're moving, and they wake up, and Superman is carrying them. And John is a kid, so he's like, "I'm Han Solo. You're Chewie, Mom. More power to the rear shields." She says, "I think you mean General Leia." So that's kind of fun. He says, "Morning, sleepyheads. Figured we'd bypass the highway and make up some time."
I wish I could.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? And we see that the name of this book is Independence Day.
See right there, it says Art Scott Godlewski is the artist.
Yeah. So they end up at the United States Capitol building, and you see all the people outside, and it's been nonstop. At least this is just protesting here. And they talk about what do you think is the best and what their favorite parts are. And Jonathan brings up the fact that the same groups are still arguing from when we came in. They're really angry at each other. Lois says, people have the right to disagree, and doing it here in the capital of the country helps get more people to pay attention sometimes. And can we pay attention to this right here? Clark says, freedom of speech is all about having a different opinion and not worrying about repercussions. John says, what kind of repercussions? Words are powerful, John. They could change the world, and sometimes words have gotten people killed. There are still places where governments kick your door in at night if you speak against them and drag you off to prison. I loved being in Thailand, but if you speak out against the king, you get arrested. And Clark says, and just as important as words are in the changing world, so are deeds. And here's some of the best. It looks, I guess they're at the Smithsonian here. So I wanted this to be here. I wanted this whole panel. Unfortunately, it's very small writing. So please excuse me here. But I just wanted to highlight this. This is so freaking cool, isn't it? It's at the
Indeed.
World War II Memorial. I love this art. I love this page. And I would love to see the original before they put the word bubbles over it. It's a beautiful page. All righty, let's get to it. Clark says, why don't we trade off reading these plaques, Lo? December 7th, 1941 became a day that thrust the United States into a war that had been raging across the globe for nearly a decade. The Japanese attacks against the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor shocked and enraged a nation, prompting a congressional declaration of war. Battleships that previously dominated the sea took back a back seat to the aircraft carriers during the naval war in the Pacific. Carriers had the ability to deliver massive amounts of firepower at great distances. This new style of naval warfare played a dramatic role in the success of the United States strategy of hopping from one enemy island to another. After American troops landed on islands in the Pacific, they found themselves in the middle of a dense jungle fighting against a hot, humid climate and a well-fortified enemy. After over 2 years of attacking German-held positions in France with bomber aircrafts, the Allies launched the D-Day invasion on June 6th, 1944. The joint operation, codenamed Overlord, successfully landed Allied troops on the shores of Normandy that were heavily laden with beach obstacles and exposed to a most horrid pre-sighted German fire. Following the invasion of Normandy, Allied and American troops launched Operation Cobra, breaking through German defenses. Tanks aided the infantrymen and played an integral part in the breakout into France. After more than 4 miserable years of hard fighting against a determined foe, word of a Japanese surrender arrived on August 14th, 1945. 3 months later, after Nazi Germany aboard the USS Missouri, Japanese government representatives signed documents officially ending the war forever known as VJD. Another war to end all wars. And once again, we get a good shot. That is such a great page right there, by the way. I think I skipped a little bit. Excuse me. Was there? Nope, that was it. Okay. And let's see.
Ryan, I want to point out he's wearing a Hamilton shirt. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Did I miss a bit? I thought there was a little bit more, because right here he's saying, you see, the Korean War has been called the Forgotten War because yeah, there was a little bit more. Why am okay? Here we go. All right, that's what I needed. And then Clark says, straight to a police action in Korea 4 short years later in June of 1950 and finally ending in July of 1953. And he mentions that Congress never officially declared war. From that point on, President Truman referred to it as a police action because it was mainly fought under the support and direction of the United Nations. Maybe that's why it never ended. Maybe that's the reason. Just saying. I'm sure somebody out there might know a little bit more. Clark goes on to say, you see, the Korean War has been called the Forgotten War because it was sandwiched between the massive international scale of World War II and the public turmoil and social unrest of the Vietnam War. I mean, I hate to even make comparisons like this, kiddo, but almost 37,000 Americans were killed in only 3 years of the Korean War, while over 58,000 Americans were killed from March 1965 until April 1975 in Vietnam. Not to mention the devastating civilian casualties, which make our dead look like a drop in the bucket. Never understood how the history books and popular culture have glossed over it. Now, let me ask you guys something, because I remember in my history classes that we really did go from World War II to modern times. Did anybody else have that?
For my history classes, we had different ones. We had world history, and then we had a separate class, it was U.S. history. Yeah,
and I'm talking about U.S. history. And in our U.S. history classes, really, that's how it worked. They didn't talk about the Vietnam War. They didn't talk about the unrest of the 60s. Maybe the space race got mentioned, but it was really just...
I was in high school in the late 90s, so a lot of the stuff that you were taught wasn't taught to me. It was glossed over, and I'm scared to think what I was taught wasn't taught to the other people.
How about you, Dominic? You're a bit younger than everyone.
I actually remember the Korean War and the unrest of the 60s was discussed in my U.S. history class back in high school. Oh, so it was surprising. It was surprising to hear that all that was glossed over in the 90s, which you would think it wouldn't get glossed over because it's part of history and it should be shown like it is, both the good and the bad.
Well, I was in elementary school in the 70s and never mentioned. No, I mean, we talked about the Revolutionary. We talked about Civil War. We even talked about World War II. But Korea and what happened in Vietnam, never. Let's see. Let's get some comments here. And where did we leave off? Clark's wearing. Let's see. They were briefly at the National Air and Space Museum. This writing is smaller than Clark's legs. You're right. By the way, you can see that especially right here. All right, that's a good one. Bianca says, is it too late to nuke Japan again? MK says, when Superman is written properly, and I like that JLA Batman, Killer Frost, Lobo, and I forgot who else series was fun. Let's see. Evil Black Cat, Clark's legs are shorter than the amount of time Eric Breen has left.
Oof.
Wait. So Eric Breen has more time left than Clark in his legs?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
I didn't notice that until you mentioned Eric about his legs in that game last night. Okay, felt like two different games. Okay. Quarks thinks this is a really good book. And LK says, yeah, pretty much skipped over the 60s. Indie Comic Jones says, the Korean War Memorial is a real nice tribute. Stumbled upon it when walking around the mall. My father fought in the Korean War, so it was great finding it accidentally. MK says, yeah, same as RDV. When I went, they focused more on world history and a little on the U.S. I was big into United States history. I think we have just piled in a whole bunch of stuff in a very short time. Relatively, we are a young country. Let's see. Maranya says, I had that sort of even in a modern U.S. history class in college from 1865 to present at that time, and I don't recall much coverage of Korean and Vietnam War in the class in the 1980s. And Joe Rogers saying, I remember the same thing. History went from World War II to modern age. Then again, I think my history book was written in 1940.
I wonder if they didn't talk about the Vietnam War because it was just still fresh in everybody's minds.
It might have been. I know even still my dad has nightmares. I know that does happen. And it seems that my father's beginning to forget things, and that one of the things he hasn't though are the stories. And they're really, really cool to tell. He talked about writing them down like a memoir, like a book or something. I wish he would.
Or do a video log, you know.
I think that would be really cool too. I do not want his stories to go away, and he's a really good storyteller. I think it's kind of cool because my dad is shorter than I am, and I'm not a very tall guy. But he's always been the biggest guy in the room. I don't care who he's there with. You know, he's one of those people when he talks, everybody looks at him. And I've always, in my heart, and I've said this many times, all I ever wanted to be was him. You know, all I wanted to be was that kind of person. Let's see. Most of what I learned about Korean War, I learned from MASH, says Maranya. Yeah. Actually, me too.
Same here.
Although, to be honest, with most public school teachers today, I'd rather them skip the 60s and 70s. Yeah. Topher says the same thing as Maranya. Everything I learned about Korea, I learned from MASH. Yep. When we were in high school, MASH was a thing. And when Alan Aldis started directing, there was a lot of history involved. No, I remember MASH. But I was in elementary to middle, or no, we had junior high school back in the day. All righty. Let me keep going here. So they continue. On July 27th, 1953, an armistice was signed separating North Korea and South Korea by a demilitarized zone, but no peace accords have ever been signed technically. A state of war still exists between the two Koreas, while just around the bend there, we have a black granite wall finally brought a sense of closure to a lot of American lives. And Lois continues to say, especially to my own father, who, until he came here, never spoke about his older brother who died in the MEDINA incident, which ended up being classified as the last battle of the Vietnam War. He died in a hail of gunfire on a beach in Cô Tang after his helicopters crashed just offshore in the rescue attempt of the MEDINA merchant ship crew, who were taken prisoners by Khmer Rouge. Kurt Lane was his name. He died trying to save others and inspired my father, General Sam Lane, to join the Marines and serve his country. Rest in peace, Uncle Kurt. And we see the names, and I have seen so many people doing rubs. If you ever go to, I know they actually had a traveling version of the wall, but if you ever do go to the wall, yeah, you will see a lot of people.
See, now I want to see a story about this.
About her yeah.
And inspiring her dad to go do this. I want to follow up. Come on, Tomasi.
Our next stop was the Lincoln Memorial, where we read the Gettysburg Addresses, the Gettysburg Address aloud in the South Chamber. Those immortal words pointing us towards our final destination on this weekend of independence. And we see that they're on the... have y'all ever visited Gettysburg, by the way?
No.
I haven't, even though
it's something.
I have. It was during an 8th grade field trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question here, though.
Oh, I thought you were actually going to say a little more there, Dominic.
Yeah, my question here is, that guy sees Superman land with Lois, and then he sees him go away, and also this guy standing behind him. It's kind of random. Like, the guy he's taking a photo.
That's Jonathan.
Is that Jonathan down there?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay. I thought it was some tourist guy.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
yeah. When I went, I would love to go back, because when I went, I was about 10 or 11, and I understood, but it's like I was too young to really understand. Like, I knew a war fought, and you see it all the time in movies and the MASH and all that kind of stuff, where people die, but they're not really dead because you see them on the next movie or something like that. I've always wanted to go back, because now I've got a sense of not a sense of humor, but a sense of history. I've read up a lot, and as it's mentioned here, I've seen the movie Gettysburg, and if you haven't, do so. You'll love it. It is, from what I understand, it's incredibly accurate, and it's very, very well acted. So anyway, Lois begins talking here, and she says, according to the Civil War Trust website, this statue of Brigadier General Gouverneur K. Warren, who came up here on July 2nd, 1863, to assess the situation and found Little Round Top completely undefended. He requested immediate assistance because he realized its position was more important, since much of the hill was cleared of trees and could better accommodate troops. It says, strategically, Little Round Top held the key to the growing battle. If the Southern troops could take and hold the hill, they could theoretically roll up the entire Union line and win the day. And that desperate bayonet counterattack, says Clark, led by Colonel Joshua Chamberlain of the 20th Maine, stopped the Confederate assault and was one of the key factors of saving the Army of the Potomac and winning the Battle of Gettysburg. And Lois says, you remember that because of the movie Gettysburg. Incredible film, by the way. Check it out. It's an incredible movie. And he goes, best scene in the film, harrowing, and Jeff Daniels as Chamberlain was great. And Jonathan asks, how long did the war last? And they say from 1861 to 1865. To which Jonathan replies, feels strange walking on an old battlefield knowing there were dead soldiers lying around. And Clark says, that's why we're speaking quietly out of respect for all the young men who gave their lives. And now that did happen when I went. Did people speak silent, like it was almost a reverence when you were there, Dominic?
Yes.
It's just so it's mesmerizing how that happens. Yeah. Well, that's a good way to put it there, Venkman. It's basically a giant grave. It's like you can almost hear him, Dad, like the echoes from the past. So we see him, he's taking pictures, and you see the ghosts and so forth. Clark says, this place was soaked in blood 154 years ago. Who's to say it isn't haunted? And they go about their day. They go a little bit off path, and they find a family, and they says, hey, folks, sit in. Join us in singing happy birthday. Oh, they say they're looking for the Union Corps battle marker, and they say that you're not lost. It's over here. And they decide, yeah, we'll join this family, and they start talking about it. It says, The 54th New York Infantry, a detail of 46 men from the regiment, occupied this position until July 1st, 1863. And they had a family member, Thomas Dowd, a 22-year-old young boy from Hudson, New York, who never got to see 23. We find out that he was a Yankee Doodle Dandy. For those of you who don't know, somebody who's born on July 4th, and he died on July 4th, 1863. And we learn his story. 2 days after Confederate shells rained down on Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, Thomas and a whole group of his bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young townsfolk enlisted on April 14th, 1861, almost 872 miles away. It might as well have been the moon, since no doubt till that time had gone more than 5 miles from Hudson, New York. So on that Easter weekend, Thomas didn't realize he was hugging his wife and infant son for the last time. Soon enough, he was standing picket duty while the U.S. Capitol was being built, one of many defensive positions he'd take while Washington was under threat of attack by Robert E. Lee and his Confederates. Didn't take long for Thomas to find himself in the thick of it and discover the Civil War wasn't so civil, especially up close and hand-to-hand combat at the Battle of Cross Keys and the Battle of Bull Run, Chancellorsville, Americans against Americans, neighbor against neighbor, sometimes even brother versus brother. And then here in Rock Creek at Gettysburg, Thomas, firing at some Confederate troops coming across the creek, is shot in the shoulder on July 1st. A Confederate tries to finish Thomas off, but he manages to save himself while sustaining another wound. For 3 days, Thomas lay in a makeshift field hospitals just above the creek's bank with other Union wounded. The tattered hospital records mention his leg had been amputated after infection spread, but his arm would heal. As a steady rain fell that night of July 4th, I'm sure all he thought of was going home and spending his next birthday with his wife and boy. But it wasn't meant to be. As the rain kept coming down until the dark waters rose over the creek's banks and literally swept away the wounded like helpless ants, Thomas included. Union patrols spent 2 days searching the area after the flash flood. They found all the wounded bodies from that horrible night, but one, Thomas's body, was never recovered. This is an annual tradition, says the daughter. As long as there's a living, breathing Dowd and he can't be given a proper burial, we will always be here to wish Thomas a happy birthday. And it only seems appropriate that the youngest one here light the candle. So they let the Kents join in on their birthday for their lost soldier. This bothers Clark. So while Lois is sleeping, he dons his cape and outfit, goes to the river, and he finds the body, returning it to his family. He says, I ran DNA samples at the Justice League headquarters. This is indeed Thomas Dowd. 154 years is long enough. Take him home.
The fact that he took the time to go to the Justice League headquarters to do a DNA sample and all that stuff, wrap an American flag, shows you how patriotic this version of Superman is. He cares about people.
And then we see the family. They're in the RV. He says, so, who wants mac and cheese? They both say, I do.
Right there. Action.
It's off to Metropolis. And yes, Action Comics #1, 1938. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Declaration Independence Day. All righty. Let me get some comments, and then we're going to do a little review here, what we thought. And so let's see, where did we leave off? Ewan, okay, yep, I remember that one. Tevye is saying he loves this story. As I heard someone say on Twitter, K-12 should be about making U.S. citizens. College and afterwards is when you can learn what you want. Philip Kennedy Johnson had Scott Goldlowski on art. These last 2 issues of Superman upgrade over Phil Hester, but not by much, says Nihilist. Our family watch MASH every week. I remember when it came on before the news. Yep. Let's see.
I watch MASH reruns when I was sick at home. We come on at noon, and I watch Andy Griffith Show afterwards.
Let's see. I have visited Gettysburg, says Maranya, back in the 70s. They had an amazing, for the time, animatronic section of the museum depicting things from the war. Let's see. You guys are lucky to live near where history happened. Nothing ever happened in Washington State, says Joe. Let's see. I'm in Florida, by the way. Where are we? Okay, here we are. You can go visit Underground Seattle, see the birthplace of grunge, and and search for DB Cooper, says okay. I remember in the school section on Vietnam War was small, says Aqualad. Maranya says people also spoke reverently at Fort McHenry, where the Star Spangled Banner originated from. We've got a couple of forts down here in St. Augustine. Let's see. The country's oldest city, by the way. Yes. It's also very quiet at the USS Arizona Memorial, says LK. Never visited, want to. And Tilliam saying best Superman ever. They should include these 2 issues when teaching American history in high school, mandatory. They'll be teaching the Captain America, the United States Captain America, before they teach this. LK saying those were 2 good comics. Things aren't done anymore because all they want are 5 to 6 issue story arcs. Yeah.
I think they should release these in a special bundle, like a patriotic bundle.
So in conclusion, I can't understate this enough. Screw Dan Didiot and Bowel Movement Bendis, says Evil Black Cat. Absolutely. Topher saying St. Augustine is cool, and I agree. All righty. Venkman, you read it tonight as well. What'd you think?
Like I said, both of these are fantastic issues. This is what's supposed to be inspirational and also supposed to be, patriotic, standing not only just for Americans but for every single human on the earth. I love that we're not getting someone who hates their country and saying showing racial injustice and all that stuff. This is a guy showing this is what our country was built on. This is what our country is. These are our people. Everyone has a right to disagree with them. No one's wrong or no one's right as far as that. Everyone is pretty much equal, created equal. I love it, and this is what he should be. And this is I'm just now I can understand why people who are upset that Bendis took over and just totally ruined it.
Yes,
because when you see
there was good reason. We were riding high on Superman during Tomasi's run. It was a brilliant run.
I'm not a guy to get into physical fights, but man, if I see this guy.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second. Bendis is coming. Why are you going to Superman? Superman didn't need help. Tomasi was killing it on Superman. Eric, how about you, man?
It's my understanding that those who did not serve in the military are discouraged from saluting. It's a respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to break protocol because I would like to, at this point, salute the man who replaced Tomasi on Superman. It's a special kind of salute. Let
me count the ways I respect Brian Michael Bendis on Superman.
I mean, every time I read this story, it reminds me just what a catastrophic error DC made giving their flagship character to this guy. Nice guy by all accounts, no idea how to write this character, and just absolutely, not only him, his buddy Greg Rucka just did unbelievable damage to Lois Lane. And you read a story like this, and then you read the Lois Lane miniseries or any Bendis Superman, you go, these aren't even the same characters. It's a shame. I mean, but the story itself, like I said, and I kind of got it, a little misty reading this, and I've read this probably 5 times, but each time, and that's the sign of a good comic or a good movie or something, when you know what's coming and you still have that reaction.
Yeah. Dominic, you want to put your 2 cents in on this?
Sure. Reading this again, and it shows that this 2-part storyline from Tomasi and Gleason has aged very well. Well, especially with the art. It's just it really takes you in. Well, it's telling a fun story while also educating the readers on American history that may not have been covered in public schools. Well, I remember when I read it the first time, I didn't know anything about Deborah Sampson until Tomasi and Gleason introduced me to her, which led me to go down the rabbit hole and learning who she was. And it amazes me because in a way she was our Mulan.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought too.
The military. Yeah, she fought in the Civil War, and even though she was found out as a woman, she was honorably discharged, and her tribute to the war effort was respected.
Yeah. When I read this, oh, sorry, I didn't know. No, you weren't done.
I say it just amazes me how this run is worth remembering while giving readers like an education on American history, while everything after that is forgettable. It doesn't really respect Superman or even American history.
Well, when I read this tonight, I got to admit I did the same thing. There were passages of this that I became a little misty-eyed over. There's just because I think it's just knowing that at some point in time there was a writer, there was an artist that actually cared. I was really angered. I was really hurt, almost betrayed by what we read yesterday with the Captain America story. This is a character who should not be treated like that. And Superman is a character who should be treated like this. So I remember I saw Tomasi at a convention at the MegaCon down here one time. And I walked up. I said, wait, you're the writer on Superman. He says, yeah. And I said, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm always recommending your stuff. You're nailing the character. This was before this story even. And absolutely 100% want that man back on this book, on this character here. So there you go. But yes, this is a really good story. I don't think it's I don't think it's weird if you got a little misty. Lois talking about her family member, especially if you have a family member that was in Vietnam. It was good to hear about the soldiers who fought the wars, fought in the wars, and you got those bits and pieces of history throughout. It's an incredible story.
So, I got a question. Did either you or Eric ever learn about this lady?
No,
I didn't.
No, and I mean, they actually taught history when I was in school, but yeah, if they did, it
slipped.
But no, yeah. I just want to say that this may be the last truly great story that the comic book industry gives us. I don't think there's been one since that matches this for what it set out to do. And when you see like what you covered yesterday, just the absolute fundamental difference in comics in just the last few years, this might be it. Yeah.
Okay, I want a decision to be made. Now, obviously, it's my channel. I get final say, but I always like to look into the crowd, and I always like to talk to the people who are doing things with me here to make sure it's okay. I put up a thumbnail that before I changed it to Truth, Justice, and the American Way, that said American Pride Month. And I did it as a way of kind of, poking the whole June crap that we got. What do you guys say to American Pride Month? I know we talked about doing Marvel versus DC and all that kind of stuff, the crossovers, but we could always move that to September.
Honestly, I would say it's not a month. American Pride should be every single day.
I get that. That's obviously yes, but I thought it might be interesting to do a month of straight up Americana, or should we just do this week?
Are we going to America Chavez after this?
We can do whatever we want.
It's America.
We're adults.
He's like,
Brain's like, yes, let's bring it in. So yeah, you guys let me know in the you guys let me know in the chat if you like this. We could continue throughout the month of July. There are more heroes. There are more stories to talk about. You know, we could be doing the Fighting American. We could do the Shield. We've got we've got more to do. Top 10s, that might be a little bit interesting, but we can figure out. So what do you think, Dominic? What's your voice on this? Should we stick to the company crossovers, or should we turn July into American Pride Month?
Turn July into American Pride Month.
Venkman, what's your vote?
I say do whatever the hell you want to do, because it's America. You can do what you want. It's your channel. God damn it. America first.
How about we ask somebody with an opinion? Eric, how about you?
Well, the only problem I could think of is I may not have the stories you choose to do.
Yes, you will. Because I've got the memory stick, so I'll be sending it along with you to you. So there you go. Now, this would include, of course, the military men like Sergeant Rock and Sergeant Fury, or maybe the losers. It would also include Commander Steel, as it's been said, or Citizen Steel, as it's said like 3 times by Emerald Centaurian here. So there's so many things we can do for this.
We also got to read the Chuck Norris books too.
No, we don't.
There are hopefully there are many good years within me and Eric, so we can capture this on more. So.
You hear that, yes. Black Cat?
There you go. Yes, I said hopefully. All right, so that would actually that I think there we go. Julie Orth says Indie Comics. Seems like we only got to get to the New Deal and they just skipped the rest. Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me see. Let's do a month of honoring American patriotism. You know what? Screw it. I'm calling it American Pride Month. I'm bringing back that old thumbnail, and I'm gonna put that across everything. All righty. Non-American here says Evil Black Cat. Go for it. Dig up the lesser-known patriotic heroes. I think now tomorrow we're doing Captain America. I think the Shield being the first should pop up there as well. We'll talk about it and we'll get to it. And Evil Black Cat is saying do Robert Venditti's Freedom Fighters. That would have to be 2 weeks, because we would do 6 and then 6. Otherwise, we would have a 3-hour live stream.
But that's not a bad idea, though.
I'm not against it. That is a badass miniseries, man. That is an awesome miniseries. And when Uncle Sam bursts out of the freaking grave, I am like, oh yes! Oh my gosh, what a freaking awesome series that was. All righty, so there you go, gang. The crowd has spoken. So there we go. All Might would be cool to cover how America has inspired others. United States of Smash, says Emerald Centaurian. All righty, there you go. So when someone drops a dish, it's finally time to say goodnight. There you go. Let's see. MK says, sure, July sounds good if you'd like American Pride Month, or maybe if you want to do it on honorable days such as July 4th, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. Well, like RDV said, we could do it on all of them, and we could devote the 4th. I love the idea of doing American Pride Month right after June. So I kind of like that, because as it was stated, American Pride Month is far more inclusive than what they do in June.
Hey, Topher has a good idea.
Cover Captain America's giant bicentennial issue. If
Venkman can find his.
I don't know. Do I have that? Not sure.
That's the Treasury edition.
I know.
Okay. You can review the Batman Family episode where Batgirl takes on George Washington.
Breen, do you need me to send it back so you can read it?
There you go.
Oh, that was I remember that was a very early Batman family.
Speaking of, guess what's going to be at the auction this week? I got a stack of Batman families about yay. So there's going to be that. I've got some a lot of Bronze Age this week. We've got Fantastic Four. We got the Batman family. I know we got more All-Star Squadron. We've got what else do we have? Some Commandy. I think there's a couple of Kazar in there. It's just a whole bunch of different stuff. So check that out as well. All righty. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for hanging out with us, and thank you very much for commenting on the story. As always, tomorrow we are going to be doing Captain America 9 o'clock. That's the one where we basically do a dramatic reading of a book. We'll be doing the first appearance of Captain America, and should be fun. So please join in. We'll hopefully get the puppet here because he seems to be the only good actor.
He's busy.
He ain't too busy to do this. Drag his ass over. I think that's
he's working. That's why he's supposed to do it last week, but you bailed.
Yeah, I couldn't do it last week. I was out with the kids at the theme park.
We need the other guy too, the one that wears the mask of a very patriotic hero.
Oh,
I do agree with this. Yes.
Former patriotic hero.
Former patriotic hero. Yes. You're right about that. You're right about that. All righty, gang. And once again, thank you very much for hanging out with us. And I'm sorry, this is what all YouTubers do. If you don't mind, help support the channel. We got a Ko-Fi, we got a Patreon, links in the description below. Like, thank everybody who's already done that. And to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.
We just got a voice actor volunteer to
See
join
you
us.
all later.
later.
All righty. And MK is going to be in. Cool.